duck hair. When he can dance like Fred Astaire. Well, he charcoals mullets on the grill. And he knows how to warm my winter chill.
Carteret County folklorist and singer Connie Mason had arranged a charcoal mullet feast on the shores of the Straits near Harker's Island. Most coastal visitors miss out on the local delicacy of charcoal jumping mullet, a species many recreational fishermen regard as bait for more highly regarded fish, although mullet are known for having tasty roe harvested during the fall. Brian Blake of Gloucester is a boat builder, musician, and veteran charcoal mullet cook.
The charcoaling mullets are in the fall, generally. They're catching roe mullet. They're not really catching them for the meat, they're catching them for the roe. And that's why we charcoal the mullets, because they slice the roe out and then everybody's pretty much giving the meat away. So this is the time of year you stock up.
Locals net smaller mullet in the sounds during the spring and summer, but autumn brings massive mullet migration southward along the coast.
When we have a change of wind from the north, we call that a mullet blow.
In the fall of the year, most of the fishing is done around the inlets and around the Salter Path cruise, or up the beach, as you know, from Atlantic Beach to the west.
Dories are used in the surf to set the nets, which are either pulled in by hand or
they pull them up with a tractor. Mostly nowadays, of course, they've got to crew them in too. Anywhere from 4 to 8 or 10 people. And before the tractors and the old four-wheel drive trucks, they did it by hand. They pulled the net ashore by hand.
During the mullet blows, thousands upon thousands of mullet were once netted, with the fishermen staying in seaside camps.
We sold mullet, from Morehead City on the train in the refrigerated cars that went to Goldsboro, and they sold the mullet right out of the car. And so that part of the southern line is called the mullet line.
Freelance food writer and restaurant tour guide Liz Biro of Wilmington says seafood tastes have changed over the years, with mullet gradually becoming regarded by many as too oily or strong tasting. But her childhood as an Onslow County coastal transplant from the north and experience as a newspaper reporter in Carteret County have left Biro's enthusiasm for charcoal mullet undimmed.
It tastes like the water to me. It tastes like the coast. It has a flavor of fish and that smoky, meaty flavor that the grill imparts. I love everything about it.
Most downeasters fillet mullet, leaving the scales on. The scales and the skin are allowed to char and end up serving as the disposable pan, if you will, in which the fatty meat cooks. Brian Blake prepares his fillets through a process known as striking.
I like to use a product called Tony Shasher, which is a spicy red Cajun salt. Then after about 5 minutes or so, you wash it all off. And it takes some of the moisture out of the fish, and it starts to harden the meat, so when you're grilling it, it's not falling apart.
Many local residents like to brush the cooking fillets with their favorite barbecue sauce, while others glaze them with butter or just use a little salt and let the fish's own fat do the seasoning.
When it's sitting there on the scale side down and heating, it actually starts to heat the oil, and it's almost as if it's deep fat frying in its own oil.
Following the example of native North Carolinians who cooked mullet whole, some cooks like to prepare charcoal mullet skewered on a stick, which can simply be laid across a fire pit or stuck into the ground at an angle with the sticks arranged in a teepee shape over a bed of hot coals. If you're lucky, there will be some roasted oysters to enjoy while the mullet are cooking, maybe even some pluckets, which are marinated strips of boiled mullet gizzards.
I'll put them on there.
We savored collards with cornmeal dumplings, traditional Down East light rolls, baked beans, and sweet potatoes with our charcoal mullet. Brian talked about this fish being kind of hardened up. He did that with striking it with the spices and the salt, and then he really let it cook for a good long while. So that is a firm fish. But I think that's part of the deal here. You want that to be very firm. It is cooked in its own container with the skin and the scales there. So there's lots of fat in there, and that's worked its way through the meat.
Croakers, spots, mullet, these were our favorite fish. Bluefish, things that people don't eat now, that's what we were eating. I mean, we liked the flavor of fish, and we liked, especially when you put fish on the grill like this, and it has that nice bit of fat in it, and that fat melts down onto the coals, and that smoke comes up and flavors the fish.
In the case of the whole charcoal mullet on a stick, again, the scales and skin become very charred, but the meat inside is moist and flavorful.
The way people down east prepared their seafood, very simply, you know, on a grill like the fish we're eating here, or baked in the oven with potatoes and onions. Nothing elaborate, because they wanted to be able to taste the seafood. It was very special. I just heard a woman talking about eating fish 5 days a week. That's how they grew up. That's what they did. And so growing up here, you really feel it.
We tell people we're eating mullet, they say, why, you know? But it's so much part of our culture. The mullet is big in Carteret County.
Well, it charcoals mullet.